Birla Institute of Management and Technology, Noida, Asia Pacific Institute of Management, New Delhi, Amity Business School, Amity University, Rajasthan, and International School of Business and Media, Kolkata. Dr. Banerjee is a fellow of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India and was awarded his PhD by NIT Durgapur on the title A Study on Predictability of Stock Returns and Behavioral Biases. He is also a certified financial planner awarded by Financial Planning Standards Board, India. Dr. Banerjee has authored a book on financial management, which has been published by Oxford University Press. He is a prolific researcher having a number of journal articles, case study, book chapters, conference proceedings, and even newspaper articles to his credit. He has been the editor of 2 journals published by Sage Publishing, and for all these academic achievements have been awarded with Outstanding Service in Faculty Advisor Award for 3 consecutive years from 2018-19 to 2021 by CF Institute. With these few words, I welcome Dr. Banerjee to this platform. Dr. Banerjee, over to you.
Thank you, Avik. Thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity to you and
My
Department
pleasure.
of Business Management, Bardhaman University.
It's our pleasure to host you. Yeah.
Thanks. So today's topic is about risk. So risk is actually a very broad term. It is a very broad term, and its meaning also changes. Like, for example, when we talk about pure risk, for example, that is the risk from where there is no possibility of gain, right? There is only possibility of loss. Say, for example, due to, say, fire, due to earthquake, etc. So risk means we understand that what is the possibility of loss, that how much I can lose if the the event happens in case of any calamity, how much money I may lose because of that. And then I try to manage that risk by taking insurance, right? And if I go to investments, for example, the financial risks, the concept of risk actually, it changes, right? So there the risk means not possibility of loss actually. There the risk can be defined as the gap between my expected outcome and the actual outcome. So because of risk, I may also gain some profit also, extraordinary profit also, right? So in this session, what we will do is, we will, how I planned it, in this session particularly because it is focused towards the financial risk, and we will particularly talk about the market risk. And we will talk specifically, to be more specific, we will talk about a tool, a derivatives tool. Usually these market risks are managed by using derivatives. A derivatives tool, which is, I would say, not that popular at this point of time, but over the time it is gaining popularity, right? So I'm talking about actually the options, right? So we will particularly talk about options, the option strategies, right? And how the option strategies can be managed, can be used for managing the risk, for managing the future expected cash flows. So that will be our periphery for today's discussion. Now, I think most of you are aware that derivatives are basically the derived contracts where the underlying asset is something else, and it actually tries to manage the cash flow, right? It tries to manage the future cash flow by using the derivative contracts. Now, options, as you are aware, that option is actually, in options, what we do, we won't transact on assets. Basically, we transact on the rights, right? So we buy and sell the rights. So when we are buying a call, so what we do is we buy the right to buy the assets, and when we buy a put, so what we do, we buy the right to sell the underlying asset, right? So fundamentally, what we do is when I am going long on particular option, actually what I am trying to do is I am trying to manage my future cash flow and holding the right to manage my cash flow by executing a contract where there is a time lag, right? So I'm entering into the contract today. I will execute it, suppose after 1 month. So my cash flow is going to happen. It's supposed to happen after 1 month, but I want to also, along with that, control the right to execute the cash flow or not to execute the cash flow, right? And as a buyer, I am doing what? For buying this right, I am paying premium, right? So I am paying premium to buy the right. So if after 1 month the market is favorable to me, then I will execute and my cash flow will happen finally, right? And if I see that after 1 month the market is not favorable to me, so then what I will do, I will refrain from executing, because that right lies with me. So of course I will lose the premium which I already paid, but still my cash flow will be less. So I have no obligation. I can come out of the contract at any point of time if I find that the market is not favorable to me, right? Now, this right usually, as you are aware, that this right usually it lies with the buyer, right? But the seller has no right. The seller has only the obligation. If the buyer says that I will execute, then seller has to execute. He cannot say no, I am not going to execute it right now. He has to obligate. And if the buyer says that no, I am not going to execute this contract because the market is unfavorable to me, then it is seller's profit. So seller will keep that premium which he received earlier, right? So because of this, in the market, sellers, they always want to expire out of the money, because if the option expires out of the money, then only buyer will not execute. And when the buyer will not execute, it is seller's profit, and seller will keep that fund, the premium amount, with himself, and that will be his earning, right? And the buyer always he always wants to expire in the money, because buyer will be able to make money from the options market only if his contract expires in the money, right? So these are the two parties which continue to tussle, and I'm going to stay slightly out of the way, but let me tell you that in options market, most of the time the sellers make money, right? Because option buyers are people like us, right? The retail customers. It is like insurance, right? So the insurance buyers pay the premium to cover the risk, right? But profit is made by LIC or the large insurance companies who sells the insurance, right? So technically, in option market also, though option sellers, we will see after some time that though the option sellers are having unlimited possibility of loss, unlimited risk of loss, but they are actually large institutions, right? Option sellers are basically the large institutions. They have more resources, they have more risk-taking capability, and they understand the market better than us. So most of the time, this option sellers, they make money out of the option trades. And usually, and one more thing which we will discuss later on, that one thing in options market continuously works against the buyers, that is called theta, right? Theta continues, even if the market remains stagnant, which happens most of the time, that market remains range bound, So theta continuously works, against the option buyers. And even if the market is stagnant, market is not moving, still the buyer keeps on losing money if he is holding a long position. So these are the reasons, there is a lot of, mostly the new market traders, new market participants, when they enter into the market, they prefer to go for long option contracts, right? And because they feel that technically there's a limited amount of loss. The maximum loss I can make is the premium, nothing more than that. But that is actually in market doesn't work in that manner. And most of the cases, the option buyers, they lose the money. Right? So we will go for this, we'll discuss the option strategies today. And then we will see there is a option builder, strategy builder. So how to build the strategies and how we can create, and also we will discuss the how to understand the movements of future asset prices by using the option chains, right? So this is our agenda. Now let me share the screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. So we are talking about risk, right? And in risk, we are discussing about options, right? Now, as we discussed, and you are already aware that there are two basic types of options. One is called call, and another one is called put, right? Now, when we will talk about strategies, right? So there are actually basically 4 strategies. One is call buy. Second is call sell. Third one is put buy. And fourth one is put sell. Sorry, put sell, right? So these are 4 fundamental strategies, right? Now there are 2 underlying parameters to it. The first parameter is time to expiry, and second one is the strike. Right? That means I can buy a call with a specific time to expiry with a specific strike. I can sell a call with a specific time to expiry, specific strike. I can buy a put with these 2, time to expiry and strike. I can choose these parameters. And similarly, I can sell a put also, right? Now, I can create a lot of other, strategies by combining these 4 strategies, right? What I want to say is that, it is like sweets, right? In sweets, the basic ingredient is milk and sugar, right? But I can add some flavor to it also. I can make, rasgulla also with same, milk and sugar. I can, make barfi also from the same milk and sugar, right? So here also, basically there are 4 strategies, right? I can mix these strategies to create, a new strategy, and I can give them a fancy name. So I can call them, bull spreads, bear spreads. I can mix 2 calls of different time to expiry, different strikes. I can mix 1 call with 1 put right? 2 calls with 1 put. So there is a lot of scope for creativity is here. So there is a lot of scope for creativity, right? So I can, with this, using this creativity, actually I am using this creativity for what? Because I am using this creativity to control my future cash payoffs, right? My objective is, see, if I buy an asset, right? I know, suppose if I buy a bond, that I know that every 6 months I am going to get an interest, right? So I have already the payoffs structure in place, right? Now, if I want to change this cash flow pattern, right? If I want to change this payoffs, right? Then one of the tool in my hand which I can use is options, right? So I can create, option strategies, and I can decide that on which date I will get the cash flow, on which date I need to pay, right? On which day I am going to receive, and how it will be impacted by the market movement, right? So I can ensure that even if the market goes against me, still my loss becomes limited. If the market goes in my favor, I should make some gain out of it, extraordinary gain out of it. So all these, strategies and plans I can do by using options as a tool. Fine. Now, there are basically 3 types of players in the market, right? One is, of course, the hedgers. Hedgers who wants to manage the risk, right? Second is speculators. And third one is a small group, it is called arbitrageurs, right? And all these people, actually, I would say basically the first 2 categories, that is hedgers and speculators, actually what they try to do is they try to assess, they create an understanding about the future movement of the market. And depending on that, they take a position, right? Like, for example, hedgers will take a position if they feel that the market may become adverse to them. Okay? So if they anticipate that in future the market may be adverse to them, so they will try to manage that possibility of loss by using options. Speculators, they play a very important role in managing the liquidity. So if they feel that the market they will try to anticipate whether the market will go up or down or remain stagnant, right? And depending on that, they can take a position. Okay? And arbitrageurs, basically, they won't follow the direction of the market, but what they try to do is they try to earn some quick money by exploiting the inefficiency in the market, right? Whichever way it may be. If there is any inefficiency, they try to, immediately exploit that inefficiency and make some quick money, right? It is all about speed in case of arbitrageurs, but in case of speculators and hedgers, right, it is about correctly assessing the future market direction. If I am capable of successful in assessing the future market direction, then I will make profit, right? And if my anticipation goes wrong somehow, then of course it can create problem, right? It can create problem for me, because if I am a hedger, it will increase my finance cost, because hedging has a cost. So my cost will increase, my profitability may fall. And if I'm a speculator and if my assessment turns out wrong, then I may lose money. I may lose capital also, right? Now, in option is slightly critical, because 2 things. First is that here we are actually transacting on rights, right? We are not transacting on anything else, or not on asset. We are transacting on rights. This is first. And second is that options are basically time bound. whatever is going to happen, it has to happen by the expiry date. After the expiry date, even if my anticipation turns correct, right? So I'm not going to benefit out of it, right? And this, as the option becomes nearer to the expiry date, so it becomes, the decay becomes more. So sometimes, I compare these options with human life. So in human life, what happens? There's an expiry date, and as a person grows older, what happens? That his theta also increases, right? There's a huge difference between 20 years and 30 years and 70 years and 80 years. Same with the options, right? And whatever one he has to do within that time period. It can be extended, right? So now, one thing I want to show, that is called the option chain, right? So for how to make the strategy, right? So I'm just showing you the option chain. See, this is the option chain for Nifty. This is the option chain for Nifty. And this is the underlying asset, right? This is the underlying asset. This is Nifty, right? And I'm showing it that the expiry date is, I'm taking the next week because today is 23rd. So say 30th September. Fine. So I'm just keeping some. Okay. Now you see, I think today there is some. Let me check. Yeah, now it is coming. Now you see this middle column, right? This is the strike. Okay, these are different possible strikes. Okay. Now this side, the left side, is showing the data for calls, and right hand side it is showing the data for the puts. Okay, and this LTP, this one, this is actually the premium, right? This is the premium for calls, and this is the premium for the put. Okay. Now this one, you can see this one, this gray band, right? You see in the call side, if you look at the call side, this, this area is slightly yellow. Is it visible to you? This portion is slightly yellow. Is it visible? The difference?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can see that there is a difference in color, right? Actually, this yellow area, this is actually in the money calls, right? And this area, this is out of the money calls, right? And here, this yellow area, this is in the money put, and this gray area, this is out of the money put. Fine, okay. Then you see this gamma, vega, theta, delta, these are actually Greeks. These are called option Greeks, right? So I want to, while explaining this, I want to start with this one item. It is called implied volatility, right? This is implied volatility, and you can see here that implied volatility is, around at the money it is low. The more you go in the money, it is showing some. I think today they're facing some technical problem. Anyway, let me see. Just a moment. Give me a moment. I think Sensible is facing some technical problem. It is not showing properly. Yeah. So, okay. This is better, I think. This is from NSE website. This is better. Now you see, this is also the same thing, the option chain, only the Greeks are not here, but we can understand the concept of implied volatility. You see, here is one column is IV. This is implied volatility of calls. This is implied volatility of puts, right? And there is one other item which is important. This is called OI, that is open interest. This is open interest of calls, and this is open interest of puts, right? And this is the underlying asset is Nifty, right? Whose value is 17,756 now at 23rd September 12:12 IST, right? And expiry date is 30th September. That is coming Thursday. Okay. Now, if you move here, you see this white area. This is out of the money calls. This little yellowish gray area, it is in the money calls, and just opposite is here. This white area, this is in the money put, and this gray area is the out of the money put, right? And we can say that this zone is 17,800 to 17,750. This area is around at the money zone, right? Now, first, I'm trying to explain what is this IV. IV is a very important parameter, right, for understanding the options, right? So what is IV? IV is, so for this, I need to go back to the Black and Scholes. So I'm writing here Black and Scholes model. So yeah. So this is the formula for Black and Scholes. This is the formula for Black and Scholes. It is written here C, which is covered by this cross, but it is C. That C is the value of the call, right? Now, this is a complicated looking formula, right? We'll try to understand it intuitively, and then we will try to understand that how it is linked to the implied volatility and what is the significance of implied volatility. Any option trader, right? Any option trader, he always looks into IV. He will always, right? So it is because option traders particularly, they basically trade on volatility, because they won't trade on the asset price, because asset price mostly it remains range bound unless there is a drastic upward movement or drastic downward movement. The impact on option price is not that significant. What impacts the option price is actually the volatility. So the option traders, they give, they are called, Vega traders, right? So Vega traders, they basically do what? They trade on volatility, right? They buy and sell options on the basis of the volatility, right? So how it is linked? Now you see, if you look at this formula, that call price is equal to S naught. S naught is spot, then normal function into D1. The expression for D1 is given here, right? And minus K. K is the strike, okay? Then exponential to the power minus RT. R is the risk-free rate, and T is the time to expiry, and normal function again, and D2. D2 is D1 minus sigma root T. Now, if we look at, say, D1, right, you can see that here are again those variables are there. This is spot of underlying, strike, risk-free rate, and then it is a new, this is a unique contribution by Black and Scholes, right? And I think this is the reason why it is still in use, very popular even after 50 years. It is very uncommon, even after it was, I think, 73, it was first propagated. Today is 2021. Still, it has been equally popular. That is introduction of this volatility. So they measured this volatility with sigma. So sigma square by 2 into time to expiry, then sigma into root t. So that means what? That means what Black and Scholes, this model is telling us that if I know, right, these 5 values, first is the spot, first is these 5 values, first is the spot, second is the strike, third is the rate, fourth is the time to expiry, and fifth, the volatility. Then I can calculate the value of call. Suppose if I use this first formula, right, call value. So it is almost like a black box. So there is another nickname of Black and Scholes, that is black box model, Black-Scholes black box. Okay? So now you see, that means if I know this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values, I can, if I put that into this formula on the right hand side, then I will simply get this value. I don't need to know what is happening inside, right? There are a lot of mathematics and all, but I don't need to know that. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Yes. Sir.
I have one question. Volatility, sir, is unknown to us. So how can we calculate the volatility?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I'm coming to that. Yeah, I'm coming to that. Yes. Very good question. I'm coming to that. Now you see, now if I know these 5 values, then I can calculate the call value. Now, when Black and Scholes, right, derived this expression, they considered historical volatility here. Historical volatility I can calculate, right? I have the the historical price of underlying, so I can calculate the historical volatility. I can put it here, right? Now I have, suppose that is one way. Now I am looking into it in a different manner, right? Say if I take Nifty for example, right? Suppose this I'm considering, I'm looking into say a strike of say 17,700, right? So its premium is now 163 around, right? So 17,700. So I am putting my spot is my strike is 17,700, right? And what is my spot? My spot is this. My spot is given here. My spot is 17,756, right? So my spot is 17,756, right? And risk-free rate I can get, suppose if I search here, say, if I search here, risk-free rate in India, suppose, I think it is 6 point something now, 6.2, right? This is the India government 10-year bond, right? It's 6.2%. So I am taking here 6.20%, right? Time to expiry, I have taken 30th September. So I can see here, my time to expiry is 30th September, right? 30th September means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 working days. Okay. So I am taking it 5 days, right? And volatility, now call value, the market call value, if I take this value from market, right? So then this value also I can take it from here, 17,700. So it is 163, right? This is my call value, call premium. So I got this value 163. Then what is remaining unknown to me is this volatility. right? So in this expression, from this expression, I can just put values in the the other variables, right, and back calculate the value of sigma, right? This is not historic volatility. This is actually what? This is actually the expected volatility by the market participants. This is actually the implied volatility. This is what they are showing here. This implied volatility column, this implied volatility column, right? It is actually telling me that suppose in 17,700 call, the implied volatility is 11.47, right? So it is telling me actually what? It is telling me that how much volatility the market participants are expecting on this call, on this particular call, whose strike is 17,700 and which is on Nifty and which is going to expire on 30th of September. So it has a predictive power, because in options, what happens? In options, the market participants, they take a futuristic view, right? Their expectation of the future market movement that gets reflected into their positions, which they are taking in the derivative. It is not about present, it is about future. Fine. So this implied volatility, there are two things. Why it is so important? The first is that it is showing the crowd sentiment. It is showing that what crowd is thinking about the future volatility. So it is about, behavioral finance. Certain element of behavioral finance is there, right, inside it. Second is, right, it is about future. It is not about past. It is not about present. It is about future. Right? So this is a very, very important parameter. Right? Okay. Now, you see, for every strike, there is a implied volatility, right? For there, so if I take only Nifty, right, there are taking including call and put, there may be around 100 values of implied volatility. So it makes the things very, very cumbersome. Okay? To resolve this issue, CBOE first, Chicago Board of Exchange, they designed an index, right? So it is called VIX. You see, CBOE VIX. So this CBOE VIX, it actually tells us what? This tells us that what is the these values of VIX is actually derived from options, option, rather than taking considering hundreds of IVs, right, for understanding that what the market is thinking, how the market may move, this kind of things. If I get one single number which tells me the human expectation, the market participant expectation, that is good. If I am a market trader or market participant, derivatives, if I practice derivatives, then it is always good for me if I get a single number, which tells me that what is the overall expectation of market participants. So VIX is that. VIX, the another nickname of VIX is fear index, right? It is called fear index because this shows that what is the expected volatility of the market participants, right, 30 days from here. So there is a misunderstanding, like I saw in some news items also in Economic Times and all, they write as if that they are talking about today's volatility. Actually, VIX doesn't talk about today's volatility. VIX actually talks about the volatility which is expected 30 days hence. Right? Now, NSE developed, in line of this, NSE developed one VIX for Nifty. So it is called India VIX, right? India VIX. So it looks like this, right? This is India VIX, right? It tells me what, suppose now it is, I think, 16.54. 16.54. It is India VIX, 16.54, slightly up, a 0.3% up, not much, this thing. So it tells me what? It tells me that in coming 30 days, right, next 30 days, what is the expected volatility? Fine. And it is derived from the option values. NSE also uploaded a white paper on this, which explains the methodology. So I think this one, I believe. Yeah, this is a white paper. It explains everything, that what is India VIX and how it is been computed, right? They take the bid ask, right? You see the call, ask, call, bid, put, bid, put asks, and they calculate. And it is, and one thing, so now if we look at this, right, the first thing which strikes us that you see this is always range bound, right? From 2010, right? It is always range bound. This is an aberration. This is the day on which the lockdown was announced, and people became, there were a lot of fear and uncertainty in the people's mind. So on this day, it reached 70, right? There's an extraordinary situation, right? You will find that where the people become excited, like this day, right? 9th May, this is the day when the first time the BJP government came to power, right? So people got excited, and then again you see in the second term of BJP government, again the VIX is up. So there were occasions, but it never goes beyond a range, right? So this VIX is actually, it comes from this, it has a predictive power. Right. It comes from this implied volatility, right? One IV is at calls and another IV is at the puts, right? If at any point of time, so the option traders, what they do when the volatility is up, right? Because it is range bound, so when it is up, they sell. When when it is down, they buy. So they continuously keep on buying and selling within a range, right? The second item, which is important here, it is the open interest, right? So open interest, I think if I look at it from this it is more clearer because it is showing, this bars also. Now you see this open interest is that. How much people are interested about a particular option at a strike, right? So now you see, now one thing, it is noticeable, I'd like to mention that here if I look here, suppose this bar, right? So it is the strike of 17,750, right? And it is not 770, let's take this one, 17,800, right? 17,800, if I look, then I can see that it is 19.8% change in Y, right? That means more people are taking positions, new positions, right? At this strike of call, 17,800, right? Now, what does that mean? So how I will, read this information when I see that there is this bar is, see, it is just now it got changed, right? From 19.8%, the power has gone off here, I think I look a little darker. I hope it will come back, within a few moments. Now you see it became 20 right now, right? That is more and more people are actually taking positions at this strike. And you see the premium also, it is changing, right? Okay. Now you see, it means what? It means that here, call writers, they are writing the calls here. Because as I told you, that market is controlled by the call writers, option writers, because they are the large institutions. The people like us, the small people, the retail people, we usually buy the options, and the large institutions, right, hedge funds, large financial institutions, they usually sell the options. So here, more and more people at this strike, 17,800, more and more people are taking positions here. Okay, so that means more large institutions are writing here, writing the calls here. It implies that at 17,800 Nifty strike, the large institutions are writing their calls. And call writing, as you are aware, right, it is actually a bearish strategy, right? So call buy is bullish strategy. So out of these 4 strategies, this one is bullish, right? This one is bearish. This one is bearish. And put sell is again bullish. Fine. So institutions are selling the calls, right? That means what? That means they are thinking that by 30th, that is the expiry date of this contract, the market will probably not go beyond 17,800. So this could be actually a support presently. Fine. So, sorry, not support, resistance. This is resistance, right? So they are the call writers, and usually the call writers are large institutions. Their anticipations usually won't go wrong, right? Because they are trying to do what? They are trying to expire out of the money in this wide zone. Then only they will be able to make money from their trade, right? So that means this 17,000 as of today, they are expecting that this will not, they will not go beyond this 17,800 level, and this is the resistance. Okay, so this is one area. Okay, this is one area, and you see, if I take the puts, suppose, right, you can see here the maximum put is this 30 lakh here, but here also it is pretty large. It is 25.6, and you can see here the change is bigger. That means here it is 30, but today's change is only 6.4%, right? But here it is 25, not far behind, right? But the change is 125% today. So it got almost more than doubled. So that means what here also the put sellers are actually they are actually large institutions, right? And they want to remain out of the money till at least till 30th of September. So they are feeling what they are feeling is that market will not fall beyond 17,700, right? So we are getting two values. One is 17,700 and another one is 17,800. So as of now, that is 12:38 p.m. 23rd September, I can say that the large institutions are not expecting a huge movement in the Nifty, right? At least till 30th of September, what they are expecting is that the Nifty will remain range bound, right? It will remain range bound between 17,700 and 17,800. But there is few more. We'll see here. Here is another large bar is here at 18,000, right? At 18,000, you see it is 22.6. Here it is 18.3. Not much difference, but here the growth is 20.3%. Here it is 14.3%, right? Now you observe one more thing here, that here you see the daily growth is within double digit, right? It is 20%, 53%, like that. You can ignore this, this 50, 16, 650. There you see the volume is less, right? If you find usually people trade on rounded figure strikes, 17,700, 17,800, 17,900, like this, right? Now you see, but here you see the growth is actually 3-digit figure, 125%, here 508%, huge growth. Then here also 338%. That means what? That means the market participants, they are writing puts here, right? Also you see here it is 25.7 lakh, here it is 18.3 lakh, right? So more people are actually, I would say large institutions, they are writing puts more rather than writing calls, isn't it? And writing put or selling put is sell put. It is a bullish signal, right? So I can make a judgment, subjective judgment here. So I can say that, okay, the market participants, they are feeling that market will remain range bound between 17,700 to 17,800, but at the same time there is a slightly bullish tilt towards that, because the people who are writing here puts, right, they are trying to do what? They are trying to end out of the money by expire. Their wish is that they should expire, right? They should expire out of the money on 30th. On 30th at 3:30 p.m. they should be out of the money and keep the premium. You see, more and more people are believing that this will never go in the money. It will remain out of the money, right? That means market will not fall. If you see the strike, this side is smaller strikes. If the market falls, this will move. This gray area will move this side, right? So, more and more people are thinking probably that this will be probably range bound with a slightly, bullish tilt, right? So the market may move up, but it will not fall. But most probably it will remain range bound. Now, if the market gets any trigger, suppose, say, that means that fear out of that, this because of which happened, that Chinese companies bankruptcy. So Indian market, is being able to, withstand that threat, right? Now, if some news comes, the positive news comes, right? Some government announcement, some announcement from Fed or something like that, then market, it may move up further, right? If nothing, unexpected something, it doesn't happen. So that's how, usually this option chart is being read. This is one issue, right? First issue. Second is, we can observe here that there are, Greeks. There are Greeks, delta, theta, vega, gamma. There is one more, that is rho. But rho is not shown here because these are all, maximum weekly or monthly option chains. So what is a Greek? How to, interpret those Greeks? Right? So we know now that if we know this 5, values, okay, if we know these 5 values, we can calculate the value of option. Okay, that means any change in these 5 values will also impact the value of the option. Fine. So how much? So these are called Greeks. These are called Greeks. So first Greek is delta. Second is gamma. Third is theta. Fourth is vega. And fifth is rho. So these are the 5 Greeks, right? These Greeks are very, closely monitored by the option traders, right? Particularly this one, Vega, right? Very closely monitored, and while creating the strategies, option strategies. So delta is what? Delta is change in option price with change in spot, right? I would say not change, I would say rate of change, right? So gamma is rate of change in delta. So if delta is your velocity, then gamma is actually the accelerator, right? Particularly, it is important when you are taking a position in a long-term option. So gamma is very important then. In weekly, it is not that important, right? Theta is I'm just copying and pasting here. Rate of change in option price with change in time to expiry. And the fourth one is Vega. It is rate of change in option price with change in volatility. And last one is Rho, which is rate of change in option price with change in rate. So rate doesn't change often. Usually it changes after, half yearly, quarterly, half yearly, or usually the central banks won't make a drastic change in it, even if there is a change. So Rho is not. That is why here in Sensible, the Rho is not shown, right? They have shown only gamma, vega, theta, and delta. Now, one thing as an option buyer, right? If you trade, you can observe here this theta, right? You see, it is always negative. This is actually for a buyer, for buyer, it is like a curse, right? So if the market doesn't change, if the Nifty supposed now it is 17,769, 17,750, right? And if I buy a call, right? And if I hold it tomorrow, right? And in tomorrow also, if it remains at 17,750, still my option value will fall because of this theta, right? And you can observe this theta is maximum near at the money options, right? You can see theta here. It is all the values are negative, right? This always works. This is one of the reasons that option buyers won't make profit. More frequently they incur loss, and it is difficult for them to make profit because they have to continuously work against this theta, right? Now delta, you see delta as you move in the money, the delta is increasing, right? Sometimes there is a misconception, particularly those who enter into this market newly. If you observe this, this premium, suppose you can see it is very cheap, right? Suppose if I take the calls, right? If I suppose I am making it per unit, you see here it is 140, but if I take this one 18,250, its cost is only 12 rupees, right? Almost 1/10, right? It is 16, right? It is 16, so it may look like that it is cheap, but it is not cheap actually. It is actually, its value is that only, right? Its value is that, and you see, its delta is very low. If you consider delta here, you see this delta is 0.52, right? 0.52 means it is telling me what? It is telling the change in option price with 1 rupee change in stock price, right? So if my underlying, that is Nifty, suppose I buy a call and really it started moving up, right? This call, Nifty really started moving up. Then this call value will move at a faster rate because its delta is high. Whereas this one will move very slowly, you know, because its delta is low. So suppose I have taken a call buy position because I am bullish, and if I buy, if I think that this is cheaper and I should buy this one because it is available only at say 17 rupees, right? Then even if my anticipation goes correct, the Nifty really starts, you know, jumping ahead, right? Still it will be very difficult for me to make a profit because the option value will not move as fast because the delta is low. And at the same time, the theta is working against me, right? So
sir.
Yes.
Please
Yes.
Once again about the influence or effect of delta.
About the can you repeat? Pardon?
About the effect of delta.
About the effect of delta.
Yes.
Okay. So delta is actually tells me what. So if I go back to the Black and Scholes, suppose if I go back to this Black and Scholes, right? It is telling me what? That in call, this is not. This is my spot, right? And here is also S0 is there. This S0 is my spot price, and it is positive. So if please mute yourself. So if S0 moves up, the option value will move up, right? But it is not linear. So it tells me what? That if this spot value changes by 1 rupee, how much the call price will move? That delta tells me. Fine. Now, if I look into this option chain, right, I can see the delta, as I'm considering only calls as example for the time being. If I move out of the money here, right, the delta is becoming smaller. That means if my Nifty goes up, still this option value, this premium will change at a slower pace because this delta is small. Whereas if I take a long call position here, suppose, right, in this 17,700 strike, then if the Nifty goes up, my call value will move up at a faster rate because this delta is high. So as a trader, right, I need to complete this trade within the time frame, within 30th in this case, right? And continuously this theta is working against me, right? So it is good for me to take a position around at the money rather than taking a position as a deep out of the money, contracts, even if they are appearing cheap. They are not actually cheap. It is their real value. Am I clear?
Okay, sir.
Madam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now the question is that why it is so cheap? Cheap means not cheap actually. Why it is so lowly valued, right? The reason is that this option values have two components. So the option value has two components. First is called the intrinsic value. It is And the second one is the time value, right? For OTM contracts, intrinsic value is 0. The intrinsic value is 0 here. Fine. So, but for ITM contracts, the intrinsic value is there, right? So intrinsic value is difference between spot and strike. Fine. So let's take one example. Suppose if I consider this, say, option chain. Yeah. So let's consider this one, right? 17,700 strike, 163 premium. So I am writing like this. Strike I am considering a call, so I am considering a strike which is 17,700, right? And my spot is I can get the spot from here. My spot is 17,756. 17,756, and my premium is 17,700, so it is 163. So my premium is 163. Now the question is, out of this premium, how much is intrinsic value and how much is time value? So intrinsic value here is I think there is one extra. Yeah, now it is. So it is 17,756 minus 17,700, so it is 56. So my time value is 163 minus 56. It is coming to 56, 107. Fine. You see the time value is pretty high because it is for next week. So if I look at, suppose the contracts which are expiring today, suppose if I change it, right? If I change this expiry date to today's date, today is 23rd, so I changed it. You can see here. You see here. You see how low the premium is, right? 2 rupees 80 paisa out of the money calls. You see 1 rupees 50 because it has no intrinsic value left, right? 1 rupee. It is only time value, and it is going to, now it is 12:57, so it is around 3:30. That means around 2.5 hours. After 2.5 hours, these options, if they remain out of the money, they will be valueless, right? In fact, today this option chain, if you observe at 3:30, you will find all zeros are there, right? In here in this column, and only intrinsic values will be left. So those options, those calls and puts, which will end at in the money, expire in the money, only you will find the intrinsic value there at 3:30 p.m. today, right? And all the options which will expire, remain out of the money, these values will be zero. This 40 paisa, 45 paisa, 75 paisa, this will become zero at 3:30 p.m. because after that it has no value. Fine. Now, one thing I want to show, right? I think it is up to 1:15, right? So don't have much time left. So one thing I want to show. So we can create strategies as we discussed earlier, that these 4 basic strategies, these 4 basic strategies, call buy, call sell, put buy, put sell, we can mix and match, like we make sweets, sugar and milk, right, in different proportions. Here also we can mix these 4 strategies, and then we can create some unique strategies, unique option strategies, right? So there is one now. We can do this using the different softwares, online strategy builders. One of them is quite popular, right? It is used by many brokerages also, right? It's called Opstra, right? In Opstra, we can create strategies. So let's see how to create strategies and payoffs. So this is Nifty. I'm creating it on Nifty, and the payoff date is 30th September, right? And I'm making it on options, right? So suppose if I take a one call, right? Suppose I am taking a long call. So how the strategy will look, the basic strategy. So I have taken a strike. So I have taken the, suppose, I'm choosing the same strike for the earlier, this thing, 17,700. C is call, right? It is call European. Call European. So option price is this. The implied volatility is 13.88. Right? Okay. So I want to buy one lot here, right? I can add more positions also. So let me 17,700. So let me add a position. So if I take only a naked call, right? The payoff the payoff diagram will look like this. Fine. So it is telling me what is the probability of profit? It is 40%. Why it usually it doesn't remain so high? It is high because we already explained it, that the option chain, this option chain is telling us that there is a range bound activity with a slight bullish inclination, right? So you see the probability of profit is 40%, not bad. You see the maximum profit is undefined, right? But practically it never happens. Practically it never happens because the reason is that within it has, whatever has to happen, it has to happen by 30th, right? And by 30th it will jump. It is unexpected that it will jump too much, unless, but there are exceptions. Like I'm showing you one exception. What happened last week, right? I'm just showing you a chart. I'm just showing you a chart and understand. Okay, I'm doing it from here. I think that is better rather than opening. See the, this is a chart of Z, right? Z Entertainment. And you see the jump here on this day, right? It jumped around 30%. Yesterday also it happened, right? And this is because of a news that Z Entertainment is acquired by Sony, right? I think on this day, it was around 20-25% jump occurred, right? Now, on this particular day, the call, the people who held long call, they got 9,600% return in one day, right? But this is an extraordinary, once in a lifetime situation. Usually that doesn't happen, right? So it is very unlikely that a person can earn unlimited profit, right? But theoretically, it is possible that he will earn, he will be able to earn. And what is the maximum loss? The maximum loss is the premium, right? So 100%, right? 8510, that is the premium, right? And break even is what? Break even is when he will start earning profit. He has already paid premium, right? That premium needs to be adjusted. So once the Nifty will cross 17,871, right? He will reach the break even. That is no profit, no loss situation. And beyond that, if the Nifty moves beyond 17,871, then he will enter into this, green zone. Now, what attracts, retail players is that this downside is limited. So it is like actually insurance, right? So when I buy a health insurance, I pay 20,000 rupees, but if I won't get sick during the entire year, then there is I will lose 20,000, right? But still I pay 20,000 premium, right? And I know that if I really get sick at some point of time, I can get 5 lakh rupees out of it. So same is here, right? It is like insurance. This is the current P&L and margin required, the full margin, right? Entire premium needs to be paid upfront. Now, this is for the payoff for the person who is buying the call. So what about the person who is selling the call? What will happen? So I'm transferring it to sell, right? You see, same strike. Okay, what happened? Reset. Option sell. Yeah. See, this is one thing we can observe, that this is just the mirror image of this long call, right? Here, the maximum profit the seller can earn is this premium, but there is a possibility of unlimited loss, right? So on the surface, this looks very, very risky. Okay, and maximum profit is what? This premium, right? This premium which he will receive from the the buyer. Okay? And you see here, but the call sellers, what they try to do is they take position in such a strike where the possibility of crossing that level is very minimal. So when a person is, you see it is writing a call here, right? Then his expectation is that the market will never go beyond this 17,900, at least not till 30th of September, right? Till 30th of September, this will not go beyond 17,900. So I will be able to keep the premium, and that is my profit. Fine. So these are few strategies. Then we can mix, right? We can mix it, right? For example, so there are in the this NCFM, they covered 22 strategies, right? So out of this, few are pretty popular. Like these spreads are very popular. I think the most popular strategy is spread, right? So if I look at, say, 43 page number. 45. Yeah. So 43. Buy call, sell call. Right? So this is a spread. So here is one example. Suppose buy call with 4100 strike and sell call at a higher strike. Right? So if I combine these two, I will get the spread. So you see, both of these are actually, so at position, option, sorry, first I am making a buy. Yes. Session. Yeah. Okay. So 17,700 reset. Buy at position. Yeah, so I got a position here. Then what I am doing, I am selling a call again. So at position, sell a call. I'm taking a higher strike. Suppose I am taking a strike of say 17,900, right? So at position, yeah. Now you see, when you see, this is a bull call spread, right? It is showing the payoff from bull call spread. I have combined one long call and one short call. Fine. So my maximum profit is what? My maximum profit is, you see my probability of profit has increased. Right? Earlier it was when I was taking, I am still bullish, right? When I have taken a long call, I was bullish, right? At that time, my probability of profit was 40%. Now it is 47% around, right? And my maximum profit is 10,808, right? And there is a possibility of loss also, which is 9,192, right? This is fine, okay? And this is my break even. Now you see, I am into profit. So because when I am buying a call, I am paying a premium. When I am selling a call, then I am getting the premium. So overall, my margin requirement, that is much lesser, right? So this is so this makes I sold two, so I can. So I bought two calls, sold two calls, right? So I added positions with this. So with this, you see, my profit potential, my risk is limited. I kept my risk at the limited level. My profit has also got limited, but that is fine because theoretically I can't earn unlimited profit by 30th of September. So that is fine with me. This is one of the most popular strategy used by many option traders, right? So I think the time is nearly reaching the climax. So any questions?
Yeah, the right word is used is climax. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hello, sir.
thank you. Yeah. So
Thank
now
you.
I ask the participants to raise a few questions if they have.
Hello.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Ayan, you go ahead.
Sir, can you tell me, is it possible to construct a risk-free portfolio with the delta?
Yes, yes, yeah. Yes, it is a delta hedging. It is possible, yeah. It is called delta hedging, right? So you can delta hedge a portfolio so that your portfolio remains unaffected with the market volatility. That's possible.
Okay, Mr. Owen Banerjee, I think we do not have the time
No,
to
we don't
discuss
have
these
time.
things
Yes, yes.
in this
We
platform
can,
now. So
we
yeah,
can connect one to
I
one.
will
Yeah.
definitely share my Dr. Banerjee's email ID with all the participants, so you can get in touch with him.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Now
Okay,
I can
sir.
see Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty raising his hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Sir, good afternoon. It is a very illustrative presentation on option pricing and option this thing. So may I ask one basic question about futures? Whether is it
Futures,
allowable?
yes, yes, please.
My
Yes, sir.
basic question is that in case of option, the strike price is defined. So in the market, the buyers and sellers are going for the tug of war with respect to the premium price, not the
Yes.
strike price. Okay.
Yes.
But in case of futures, whether this strike price is defined and fixed.
So in future, what happens in case of future, sir, there is no strike price as such,
Yes.
right? So the parties enter into a contract where there is an exercise price which they enter into a commitment, right?
So
But
I'm
there is
just
no
making one
question of
example.
right there.
Suppose at the first day of the month at 9:30, X
Yes.
company's share spot price is 500 rupees.
Yes.
So at that particular moment, future trading on that particular underlying share has got started. So
Yes.
what could be the initial price of that particular futures?
Oh, that will depend upon, sir, on the rate.
Suppose for
it is
example, the first futures price that has been set is 520. Okay.
yes,
And that is
yes,
between you and me. Open interest is
Yes.
1. So I have committed that I will be buying the thing at 10:20, and you have committed that you will be selling the thing at 5:20. Now,
Yes.
after some time, when I am selling my contract to Mr. Z at a price of say 530, then actually what is happening? That means where will be your stake and what will be the stake of Mr. Z?
yes, 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 yes.
Suppose there is no change in open interest.
Yes, yes. I think I understood the query. So I'm trying to answer. The answer is that suppose, say for example, say I am entering into suppose I am in spot, right? Suppose the price of ITC is 250. Suppose now, right? And in future, suppose it is 270. The ITC future, right? So now I entered into the future contract, which is going to expire after 1 month.
Okay.
Right. Now this price of future is linked to the price of the spot, right?
Correct.
And in future, the relationship is not as complex as option because there, no exchange of rights is happening, only a commitment. So usually the expression is, normally if not is equal to S naught into 1 plus R to the power T, the compounding formula, right? Now what is happening? Now you see that means if not is so I know S naught and F naught, but I don't know what is S1 and F1 after 1 month, even after say 10 days. What will be spot? What will be the future? That I don't know at this moment, right? So after 10 days, what is the profit? What will be the F2 or F1, I would say, F0 and F1. So if I entered into the contract at F0, but I don't know after 10 days what will be the F1, right? So this will create a risk which is called the basis risk. If I wait till maturity date, if I wait till expiry date, then actually I have no risk at all. Because I already know that how much I am going to get. I know that I will get 370, right? But if I,
actually, sir, my question is not exactly that, but I think time is shooting up, so I may be sending a mail to you.
Yes.
Otherwise, the entire session time will be.
Yeah.
Because my basic question is that when the same contract I am reselling to someone, then what will be the change in the text? Suppose it is a contract.
The difference. Gain will be the difference. Suppose you see in futures, in futures, if I want to come out of a contract, then I need to take a counter position.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I will take a counter position. This counter position, at what rate I will take, that will depend upon the prevailing price at that point of time when I am taking the counter position, right?
Yes,
so suppose I am on a long future at 360. After 10 days, the futures price in the market is 370, and I have taken a counter position. I went short. So this 10 rupees, this 10 rupees is my gain.
Yeah, I think I'm missing my the crux doubt. Okay, I think I'm taking much of time for this, so I will be in touch with you in later course of action.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Shantanu, I will share Arindam's contact number with you so that you can directly get in touch.
Thank you so much, and I congratulate you for organizing such a beautiful event.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, there is in chat box, there is one question that is this. I think this PDF, the sharing of PDF.
Yeah. PDF on option strategy.
This I will mail.
Okay.
This
as I get the mail from Dr. Arindam Banerjee, I will share it with all the participants as I have been doing with the other resource persons. So, thank you, Dr. Arindam Banerjee.
Thank you very much.
Formally, I extend warm thanks on behalf of the Department of Business Administration, the University of Burdwan. And a good news for the participants is that we have Dr. Banerjee's session, one more session tomorrow as well. So I'm sure that whatever he discussed today is entirely practical. Now, in the classes, what happened is we in our master's days, or even still now in many of the master's programs, the classes which are held in theoretical format, so many of the students who get interest in it, they do not get to see the practical side of it. So that is what my intention was, and that is why I invited a renowned resource person like Professor Dr. Arindam Banerjee to share his expert knowledge in this field. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. It was really nice to have you. Yeah. So, dear participants, so we break for lunch at day 3 this point. So our next session will start sharp at 2:30 p.m. and we will open the session as usual 5 minutes before that from 2:25 p.m. today. And participants, before leaving, just listen to one important announcement. That is, tomorrow, the first technical session is scheduled to be taken by Professor Dotto of Sikkim Central University. He is a professor of finance. Now, Professor Dotto called me some time back and said that there is an emergency meeting at his front from 11 a.m. onwards tomorrow. So he requested us to just prepone it by half an hour. So instead of having the first session from 10 to 11:30 as usual, we will be having the first session just for tomorrow from 9:30 to 11. And after that, we will have, instead of a 15 minutes break, we will have a 45 minutes break. Okay? So please take note of this fact. And tomorrow we will schedule the class session from 9:30 a.m. instead of 10:30 a.m. So other sessions will be as usual at the designated times. Thank you. So have a sumptuous lunch and please be back by 2:30 p.m. Thank you.